All right, so we're going to get started. Thank you, everyone, for attending today's interview. We are really excited to have Mistress Marley here today to share her expertise on gaining and retaining a fan base as an adult content creator, which we all know is no easy feat. So often, working as a content creator can feel a bit overwhelming with knowing where to start, what content to put out, and how to actually connect with and find loyal fans. Mistress Marley has built an amazing name for herself in just under 4 years of working in the adult industry. So for anyone who maybe doesn't know so much about you, can you share a little bit more about yourself and what exactly you're doing?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mistress Marley. I am a pro dominatrix. I am based in New York City in Brooklyn. I've been a pro dominatrix going on 4 years now. I specialize in something called financial domination. A lot of you might have heard of it. A lot of you might haven't, but pretty much it's just me dominating my subscribers, my subs, my betas, as I like to call them, financially. So I pretty much control their wallets. From that, I have my own dungeon in Brooklyn that I own with another dom named Goddess Rue. I also have a lingerie line, and I also teach others how to create content and basically how to make a name for themselves in the dom industry.
Cool. Yeah, lots of things going on. You can definitely tell that you've put in a lot of time and investment and have really figured out how to navigate where your place is within the world of being a dominatrix. So how did you know that becoming a pro dominatrix was the right thing for you? Like once you started learning about it, was there a moment when you really felt like it clicked, like it was
Yeah, lots of things going on. You can
you were
definitely
going
tell
to
that
enjoy?
Put in
So
a
I knew
lot
becoming
of
a pro
time and
dominatrix was the right
investment,
thing for me
and
when everything
really
just started
figured
to
out how
feel
to
authentic.
navigate where your
Even
place
me
is
stepping into the
within the
role
world
of dominating men and humiliating them and
being a
saying all
dominatrix.
these
So
things that other people would see as harmful or crazy, knowing that I was fulfilling a fetish or a kink, it just started to come natural. It was to the point where it was like, I don't feel like I'm acting. I feel like this is me. I'm a very dominant woman. I love taking control over submissives. I love having my life funded and people just subscribing to my content and loving my content. So I knew naturally it was something that I was going to grow to love, and I do love it. And I absolutely love creating content for it. And for me, it doesn't even feel like a job. It's just something that I really love to do. So every day I'm just trying to figure out what can I do next? What can I do new? Like, what can I create now? Like, I feel like when you're growing creatively in something, you start to love it even more.
Absolutely. It's very rare, I feel like, in today's day and age to really feel like you can make a solid name for yourself and also support yourself financially with something that you actually feel authentic doing. So to hear that, I'm sure is going to be really inspiring, and especially in the realm of the adult industry and with sex work, it's amazing to see the benefit that's been happening of people really stepping into their true selves and exploring more about who they really are and what they really enjoy doing, what makes them come alive.
Exactly.
These are the success stories that we love to hear. Okay, so maybe some of our creators, some of our community aren't really sure about how to approach getting into work that's more fetish based. So do you have any suggestions for someone who's maybe interested in this but doesn't know exactly where to start?
So for anyone that wants to get into fetish-based community or fetish-based work, you have to realize that the fetish world within itself, there's so many moving pieces. There's so many different kinks. There's thousands out there. There's kinks out there that you would never thought, people would really be into. My most surprising thing I came across in this world is that a lot of subscribers have an ignore kink. They just really want to sit on camera with you while you ignore them. So there's different things that you will find out by being in this industry. The biggest thing about the fetish world, though, is really safety. Safety is stress because you are dealing with someone else where you might be doing something very like impactful, impact play, humiliation. You're really breaking into someone's mental more so than the physical. So, you really have to position yourself to know, okay, how do I control someone mentally? What can I say that can make them tick? Because sometimes they might not get turned on just by seeing your content or your videos. They want to hear you say something that's going to make their mind turn and make them really feel like they're being controlled, especially, you know, since when we're creating content, we're virtual. So from a distance, they want to be able to be controlled in that way. So just really getting into this industry is going to require safety, a lot of research, really learning the in and out, of BDSM, knowing that BDSM is not just cut and dry. There's a lot of moving pieces, like I said before. But also the biggest thing is really getting, you know, in touch with the community that's here. A lot of us are here to help each other. There's consistent classes, there's consistent events going on. There's so much stuff now that I've noticed since, you know, COVID that is more so online and more so very helpful. So I say all that to say that if you're going to get into fetish work, be prepared. Be prepared to step outside your comfort zone for sure, but also to still make sure you're comfortable. You never want to do something you're not comfortable doing. And just really do your research, because this is a field where you have to come off authentic, because subs will know if you're like not really dominant. It could be awkward for them and awkward for you. So just, I would say research. I mean, I've been doing this now 4 years and there's still things I come across and I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So just have an open mind and be ready to learn.
Very cool. Yeah, I guess it's fun to have a job that you're always being surprised with. But when you're talking about resources, are there any specific people in the industry or maybe organizations that you've really referred to when you were starting to educate yourself when it came to the world of dominating in BDSM?
Yeah, so there were definitely like, there weren't really people when I first started that were mentoring or really teaching classes, but there were content creators that I could look towards to kind of get an example from their videos or see what they were doing. So for me, it was Jet Setting Jasmine. There's another Black Dom in London named Newbies Matriarch. She also runs the Femdom Ball every year. There's also like different groups. There's BIPOC out there. There's different collectives. There's different sex work organizations and charities like SWOP. Like they're all over. They're in all over the USA. They're in different cities and different states. It's really just kind of looking at the content that grabs you the most, right? So like if you're someone like me that looks towards PLC content creators or creators that look like me, because sometimes we want to look at people that look like us so we can kind of try to, you know, relate. It's really just about finding that content that sticks out to you. And then don't be scared to reach out to that person. Like, hey, I saw this content. I really appreciate it. Can you give any pointers? Always remember to tip, okay? Because sex workers deserve to be paid too. Always remember to tip for their time. But the community, I can say now, is very much so more helpful, especially like I said, since COVID, like everyone is teaching online now. You don't have to go in person if you're not ready to go in person to a dungeon or be thrown in that environment. You can pretty much learn online.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the last ways of actually being able to really grow on any sort of social media-based platform. I mean, whether that comes from just the things that you're learning through connection, but also the way that networking and really finding people that you align with. I feel like it's one of the last ways to like genuinely build your circle and your community. As it seems that with social media, it's very hard to actually do that. If you're not looking to connect with anything, it feels like you don't really get that much out of the experience. And it's amazing too. I feel like the culture of a lot of different fields of work, but especially from what I've seen so far, the adult industry is extremely supportive of each other.
Very.
And I mean, that's been a huge reason of like wanting to collaborate with the Fancentro team. I personally have just seen that there doesn't seem to be some sort of air of competition or of like the scarcity mentality of there's like not enough to go around, that you need to hoard all of the information that you have. And it seems like people are actually growing because of the things that are working for others in their community. So that's really cool to hear that you've had that experience, and especially with the fact that you've grown in such like a pretty quick amount of time. It's really encouraging to know that like a big reason for that kind of growth was I mean, obviously you really value the people that you connected with and asked for help from, but the fact that they were open as well is really cool, because everyone's time is very valuable.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So I guess to sort of move into like a more broad field of working with adult content, a lot of questions that we get are related to growing your fan base, especially when you're doing mostly work online, which we've talked about in the interview that we did with you about how difficult it can be because terms of service are constantly changing and there are not a ton of safe spaces on the internet for the community to promote themselves. So do you have any tips off the top of your head for navigating the changes as they're happening and anything that you kind of refer back to that has stayed consistently working as you've grown your fan base online?
I definitely tell people not to be dependent on apps such as Instagram and Twitter, or apps that can be here today, gone tomorrow. Because the worst thing that can happen is you've put all your content on something, you're talking to subs or subscribers or people that like your content on there, and then the next day you're gone. So you're losing money, you lost your content. I always tell people, make sure that every single piece of content you have is saved to your phone, whether you're uploading it to an Instagram story or whatever, make sure it's saved. Have alternate methods for people to talk to you and subscribe to you. Try to take people, it's good to have your fan base on the social media sites, but you also want to have other avenues to where they can contact you. I always tell people email subscriber list is important because you can lose your social media today, but that subscriber list is forever. So you'll always have those emails. You'll always be able to, email market to people. Like, I got new content that just came out. I have new videos. I'm selling new clips or whatever. But if you just depend all on Instagram or Twitter or social media, like I said, if it's gone today, what happens? All your stuff is gone and you have to start from scratch. And this is coming from somebody that yesterday lost their 9th Instagram page. So Instagram got me yesterday. So that pretty much comes from me speaking from experience, from being devastated from losing those first couple pages to being prepared to where now when I lose my Instagram, I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll email everyone that was following me. I know like people subscribed. I'll talk to them that way. So you really just want to make sure that you have everything in place that if you do lose your stuff, because these websites, they aren't dependable. It's not something where, and if you get deleted, they don't really care. They're not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, let me really try to get so-and-so's page back because they need it. Like, they're not, most of the time, reading the appeals. It goes to bots and stuff like that. So just really make sure that you are keeping stock of everything that's important to you. And whether it's a hard drive, a backed up folder, a USB, your phone, whatever it might be, really make sure that you're keeping track of your content, because once you lose it, that's it.
Absolutely. It feels like you really have to make sure that you're the one who's looking out for yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Because these websites really want, like, they don't really have our back, especially adult content creators. If they could, they would get rid of all of us, but they have to do it one by one, as it comes along. But that's why it's also important to have community. So you're able to, you never know who in your community might have a resource that might can help you out, might can give you a shout out or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's also cool to think that something like email, of course, all of us are still using email all the time, but in the world that feels like marketing is like the forefront of marketing is with social media, it's kind of great to know that something like that seems a bit old school now is always there for you and has your back. I love that. Okay, so another more practical question that we get asked a lot is to do with the way that you build out a schedule. And I mean, just for sake of time, maybe we could just think about like weekly go-tos or staple tasks that you try to incorporate in the way that you're building out your schedule with things that you think are really important to tend to on a really consistent basis. So that could be something like promotional posts, DMs, whatever it may be. I guess it's kind of like stranded desert island type of question. Like, if this is the only thing that you could have every week to help grow your business, is there anything in particular that comes to mind?
Definitely stockpiling content. So I believe when it comes to content creation, because content creation is usually the thing that turns new creators away, or sometimes new creators feel like they're being too lazy and they're not producing enough content, or sometimes you're just overwhelmed at the thought of making videos. So I do something called stockpiling. I believe in working smart and not too hard. So for instance, for me on a weekly basis, say if it's a Monday, I could use a Monday and make it my content creation day. So on that Monday, I'm doing different content and different outfits. And then I'm posting the content for the weeks to come or the months to come. Just really making a day where I'm just shooting, whether, like I said, it's in different outfits, different fetishes, different kinks, and then posting as the weeks are to come. That way I'm not overwhelming myself. That way I'm not getting up every day and putting on and doing hair and makeup every single day and outfits, because that can get very overwhelming. So for me, it's always working smart and not hard with the content creation. You want to be able to still live your life. You don't want to be, you never want to look at something that's stressful. You never want to be like, oh my God, I got to shoot content Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then at that point, you don't even really want to be doing what you're doing. So that would be my one thing, my one go-to.
Cool. That seems like it'll be definitely beneficial. It's always nice too to have a really productive day. And it's probably, I don't know how, I'm sure it's exhausting after a full day's work, but maybe there's an element of the excitement of kind of slipping into different personas for each different type of content. So that sounds like a good way to go about things.
It gives you an ease of mind. Okay, well, I spent my whole day Monday, and now the rest of my week I can chill, and maybe the most I'm doing is just promoting it on Twitter, posting it on Fancentro, posting it here, posting it there. So you really just want to kind of give yourself that time to just chill out, something that's not too task heavy.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like too, after the pandemic, a lot of us have sort of learned the benefit of remote work and the ways to work more efficiently so that you can have an actual genuine work-life balance, which before was a thing that we talked about but never actually happened if you were dating. And so that's cool. Yeah, I love the idea of getting a shit ton done, and then having some time for yourself and having just some autopilot mode with promotion. Okay, so I think that now is probably a good time to get into some of the questions that we received on Twitter, which is really exciting. It was amazing to have people writing in with some things that they personally wanted to ask you. And so, yeah, we definitely want to give enough time and space for those to be taken care of. Okay. So one of the first questions, which I feel like we talked a little bit about this when you were introducing yourself, but this will be cool to kind of maybe enter into another aspect. But this person has asked and said that being a dominatrix has always inspired them. So they're curious about what it would entail for them to become one.
So becoming a dominatrix, it all comes down to who you are, your personality, what you can see yourself doing, what you can't see yourself doing, and if being dominant is something that you feel comes natural to you or something that you feel like you really have to work on. Because you're calling the shots as a dominatrix. You have men serving you, you have men looking to you to be given their next task. Even in sessions, whether it's virtual or in person, you are pretty much the hostess for everything. You're setting the scene, you're setting the tone. So becoming a dominatrix, like I said before, it's going to take a lot of research, but it's also just going to be taking, like I said before, what are your likes and dislikes? Do you think you're an aggressive dominatrix? Are you going to be the one saying sit down and yelling and all that stuff? Or are you more sensual? Are you more into seduction and being a little bit softer? There's so many different personality types. Do you find yourself to be nurturing? Instead of telling your sub that he's a loser, do you want to tell him that he was such a good boy and did so good for you today? So it really comes down to, does my personality translate? How can I make my personality translate? And I always tell people, when it comes to being a dom, be yourself. I think we see this persona in movies and on TV and pop culture or whatever, dominatrix are aggressive and they're crazy and they're mean and they're doing all this stuff. But there's so many different personality types and there's so many different aesthetics too that you can choose. That's what I love about this field. One day I can be doing ASMR, a sub that just wants to watch me eat food. The next day I can have a sub that just wants to see my feed. I can have a sub that's into role play. I could do just a simple phone sex call where I'm dominating a sub, So there's so many different things that you can do in this industry, but it's really going to start with just ask yourself, what are my personal likes? What am I into and how can this translate into being dominant also?
That's amazing. I feel like that's such a good way to look at figuring out what kind of content to make in general. because you are going to be spending so much time in this mode. So I mean, the ideal way of working is to not have to work so much against the grain of who you are. And I feel like, especially, like, I really love what you said with touching on the way that dominatrix culture is portrayed. Like in culture, I feel like, yeah, it is very limiting, and there is like a definite consistent archetype that's sort of displayed in films and I mean most films and TV shows. And it doesn't leave a lot of space for anyone to feel like they can step into this power if they do feel like they have a more dominant personality, if it doesn't look exactly like what they've seen. I'm sure that that's discouraging. So I feel like probably with what you've shared, a lot more people will probably feel that they actually have the power to take what they have and like what flavor of dominance applies best to them and have fun with it. Which is really cool, very empowering. Okay, a next question, which I really like this one a lot. I mean, they're all amazing. This one's really specific. This person has asked, if your current audience knows you in another capacity, is it best to build a new sort of persona for your adult content?
So I've gotten this question before, and I always tell people pretty much do what you're comfortable with. So say, like, for instance, there's this girl I was helping one time, and she had her start in the porn industry, but she wanted to shift over to the dom and fetish industry. And her question was like, you know, if I start doing the dom stuff, will my porn followers still come over? Will they not believe it or whatever? And I'm like, if your followers genuinely love your content and you're very hands-on with them, you're very personable with them, you know, they're always looking forward to what you're doing, they'll have no problem transitioning over to that content. Now, I'm not saying that everybody will, because you'll have some people that were strictly just there for the porn. You'll have some people that were strictly just there for the fetish work. But I will say it's okay to make that easy transition, because people have to understand that we grow. We don't always stay in the same positions. So we grow. So maybe you'll just kind of like, you know, move into it maybe a little slower, not like right away. Like, you know, sometimes you can't just dive right into it like, oh, this is all I'm offering. But over time, you can still have your porn content up and say, you know, in the next couple of weeks, I'm moving into fetish work. I really want to do fetish work. I'm really into my feet being worshipped. I'm really into men serving me. There's different ways that you can talk about it and bring it up to where it seems exciting and not so much of where you're getting rid of everything. Or you always want to make everything enticing. But also too, if you feel like you want to make a different persona, that's completely fine. The internet is such a vast place where there's so many people that still haven't noticed you or gotten to you yet that would have never known about that you did porn, and here they are on the fetish side. So it really just depends on like what you're comfortable with. If you want to bring it all together, if you want to separate it, just to me, I think that's personal preference.
Definitely. It's great to remember that you can reinvent yourself and the right people will find you. Okay, just a few more questions. I want to make sure that we get to all of these since they were specifically asked. This is a good one, especially when it comes to just talking about money, because I feel like sometimes that's a hard thing to approach, especially if you aren't used to knowing how to set a monetary value to something that you make. So any tips for someone who's just starting out with figuring out how to price their content?
So my favorite thing to say to people is your prices are your prices. Me personally, when I first came into the industry, and even still now, I try not to look at what other people are charging. When you look at what other people are charging, you start to think, oh, well, shit, I wanted to charge $40 and I see that they're only charging 20, so maybe I should charge 20. You know your bills, you know what you have to handle in life, you know what you have to pay for better than anyone else in the world. So if you feel like that your clip should be priced at $40, price it at $40, because somebody's going to buy it. If you think it should be priced at $5, price it at $5. Someone's going to buy it. I always say, you never know what people are willing to spend until you see it. So a lot of people freak themselves out and they say, oh, there's no way anyone's going to spend $100 on this. And the next thing you know, someone spent $100 and you're like, well, maybe I should have made it more money. So I always tell people, like, price your things on what you want to price it. I don't think there's a standard for that. especially in fetish work, especially in financial domination, where you have people just sending you money and you haven't even said a word to them. I could wake up to a $200 tribute and I don't know who it came from. I've never interacted with that person, but they felt compelled to send that. So people are going to send what they send. Always price what you think your worth is. You know your worth better than anyone else. You know how much work went into making that video. You know if you had a bad day and still had to make a video. So because I had a bad day, I'm going to charge even more now. You know where you were at emotionally and mentally when you recorded that content. You knew how much money you spent on the ring lights and the studio lights and the phone holders and all these things that go into creating this content. So really just take that into consideration when you're pricing your stuff. Think about how much energy you put out, because sometimes we try to price it based on, okay, well, it's 5 minutes long, so it needs to be this. It's 10 minutes long, so it needs to be this. But also think about, what are you doing in the clip? Did it take a lot of energy? Were you tired after you did it? Did it hurt a little bit? Was it very, very specific and maybe someone requested it? You really want to make sure you're charging based on the energy.
Great advice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes,
And okay, so we've got one last question, which I think is an important thing to go over. It's also a little bit related to money. And it's talking about the question of how to increase the quality of your content when maybe you don't have a significant amount of capital to invest into what you're making.
There are a lot of pieces of equipment out there, tech equipment, that can make your content amazing without having to spend a lot of money. For those that don't know, every piece of content you see from me is recorded on what I'm talking to you on right now, a phone. It's a phone. It's a phone holder. You can get ring lights from Amazon ranging between $10 and $40. You can get backdrops for your house or your room if you feel like you have a lot of clutter. That can help. Usually those backdrops can range anywhere from $5 to $10. I think a lot of people see this content and think, oh my God, it must have been recorded on a professional camera with a big studio and all those things. No, you can use what you have in your hand right now. Also, there's so many photo and video editing apps out there that are free that you can use to make your content even better. I mean, there's apps now where you can remove stuff from your background. Like, say if it's like something there you didn't want, you can remove it. There's apps to make your content look more high quality, more glossy, more bright. You can do different filters. You can do different things of that nature. There's apps like Canva where you can create thumbnails and different graphics and all these things where you don't have to pay a graphic designer. So really just looking into these resources that are available for you right there on your phone.
Awesome. And then something that I had seen recently is if you're working on your phone, do you have any tips for having like a seamless editing process if you end up doing that on your phone rather than a computer?
So I record my clips on my phone, and the good way to do it is when you're recording, you kind of want to record in pieces anyway, right? Okay. So if I'm doing a 5-minute long video on foot worship, the first minute might just be me being an intro, being snarky, humiliating them or whatever. I'll stop. And then the next one will be just my feet in the video. Maybe the next one will be me rubbing my feet. So you pretty much kind of want to do it in bouts and in clips rather than just one long clip. It makes it way easier to edit, and it lets you know, like, okay, this is the piece I want to go first and I want to go second, instead of having to go back and splice it all up. And also I use an app called InShot. InShot is an amazing app. It allows me to reverse, speed up. You can add your watermark up there. It lets you add captions and text, and it's a free app. So that really helps me a lot.
Nice. I love that they have a watermark feature.
Yes, because watermarks are important in this industry, okay?
Very, very important. Seriously, you don't want that stuff getting reposted and pirated and all of that. It's scary out there.
Yeah.
Okay, so just like a random little blurb at the end, we wanted to ask you if you can think of 3 ways that working in the adult industry, working with creating content, being a dominatrix, has positively impacted your life for you specifically. Like why has this made your life better?
Well, first of all, the money has definitely made my life better.
Yeah.
I come from a 9-to-5 corporate background. So right before COVID, I was working 9-to-5 in the fashion industry and just feeling like I was still struggling from paycheck to paycheck, living somewhere as expensive as New York. And now I can just, buy things that I couldn't buy before without having to really worry about it. I could send my mom money for something she needs without having to worry about it. I can help my parents out just like they helped me coming up. The second thing is help me how to learn how to deal with time wasters. I now know when someone's wasting my time, because you get time wasters online. So in person dealing with stuff, you can be like, oh, I can tell they're going to waste my time or whatever. And then also, I think the third thing is like in my personal dating life, it's really helped me see what I see as respect from men, or anyone that I'm dating. Like, I know what disrespect is. I know what I will take and won't take. And this industry has really helped me establish boundaries. So those would definitely be like the top 3 things for sure.
Those are really, really incredible things to have come from the work that you do. I mean, to have all of those benefits in your life now. I mean, it's very, I mean, I feel like all the time I'm saying like all of the things that come from this line of work. It's like the ways that your life and the quality of your life and the way that you know yourself and interact with the world around you, it just changes exponentially.
Exactly.
It's so incredible. So
I love
it. Every time I hear another story, I'm like, damn, this is how it should be. Like, this is
like it's like you're seeing the world through a different lens now. It's like, okay, I'm used to this type of stuff in my real life, like in my adult content creator life. So when I step out into my vanilla life, I know what to look for now. I know how to keep myself a little safer. Like, I know how to interact with people.
Absolutely. There's something really cool that happens in this, like, this realm of this space where there's a lot more that you confront about the human experience within the realm of sex work. And I feel like you learn so much about yourself. You're able to identify what behaviors are happening with other people. And I feel like the growth that happens is just, it's hard to come by in any other sort of workplace. But of course, it also has to do with the fact that there takes a lot of like self-awareness that comes with running your own business. So
definitely self-awareness, definitely some vulnerability in there, but
for sure. Oh, well, it's been so amazing getting to talk with you, and you know that we've been just so excited and just so happy to have you investing time to work with us, because we really wanted to have you share with the creators of Fancentro all the things that you've learned. And I mean, we just want to give voice to those who know and those who have worked really hard to get where they are at. And who better to share tips than someone like you. So we want to give you a little like moment to do a little like plug and promo. So do you want to share where everyone can find you for following you on social media, signing up for any courses with you, just where they can find you from here on out?
Yes. So my main social media, it was Instagram, but not anymore. My main social media Twitter. So that's twitter.com/eyes, like your eyes, X on fire, or you can just type in Mistress Marley and I'll pop right up. I'm also on Patreon, where I teach content creation, safety, consent, doing different sessions. I teach all that good stuff. It's over 100 courses for only $5 a month. That's patreon.com/sex academy. That's SEXCADENY. And that's pretty much everywhere where you can find me. If you click my Twitter bio, it'll take you to all my other links. So there's a ton of links there. I'll be reading a book if I sat here and said every link. So you can just click you to every single one. And I'm always hosting online Zoom courses too. Like, I'll do pop-up courses. But my Twitter will keep you updated on all of that.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And then everyone can find us at Fancentro Tribe on Twitter. And as well, I feel like this is something that maybe not everyone knows, but we have an amazing team of success coaches that are available and want to have one-on-one calls with anyone who needs any help getting to know the platform a little bit better. And we're here to support, and we want to see everyone reaching their goals and feeling empowered and confident and excited about what they're doing. So that's been the whole goal of this interview. And we're just happy that everyone has been here today, and we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Thank you.